that feedback with you. Oh, thanks, Haley. Um, Tonight, we are going to focus on the Capstone project, endorsements, and community service recommendations. We did invite guests from BASIS to talk about their Capstone project, just to give us some context of what it takes to run a successful Capstone project, and also to get some idea of the benefits that it might offer. And we'll have a chance to ask them questions about how it works at their school. I think there may be others on the task force who can speak to their experiences with capstone projects as well. And then we'll move to the other topics, endorsements, and community service. We can go to the next slide. We do want to welcome two new members. I know Christy, I saw Christy here. Christy, if you would unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Robert. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christy Dennis, and I am Manager of Sector Planning and Compliance at the DC Public Charter School Board, also known as DCPCSB, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Christy. We're glad to have you. I didn't see Chandra Goodman yet, but she is joining us from the Workforce Investment Council. Vanessa Anderson had been representing the WIC on the task force, but she has left the WIC for another job. We are keeping her on the task force because of the value that she adds to our discussions, but also invited someone to represent the WIC to replace her. So she will join us, if not tonight, hopefully the next meeting. So again, the raw data for the feedback we received at the engagement sessions is available on the Dropbox, but we're going to go over some summary notes for each of the categories momentarily. And please continue to share the survey. We'll close that at the end of January. So Haley has kindly summarized the feedback that we got on each of the OSSE recommendations during the engagement sessions. For the post-secondary planning touch points, this was actually brought by Bridget Jackson, who's a member of our task force. The language in the recommendation is for advisors, and she was really pushing to ensure that those touch points are with counselors who are adequately trained to provide the guidance needed for those touch points. Around the capstone project, a lot of concern about implementation, who would bear the load of implementing, and what support and resources would be available for students and teachers in completing that project. Around community service, we've really had a mixed bag of people who appreciate the reduction, and some think it is unnecessary and want to keep it at its current level. For the course requirements, a lot of concerns about changing the science requirements. There have been concerns about the standards and implementation of financial literacy and career preparation. The question of, who would teach those courses, and what it would mean to a school to have to cover those courses. There's been concern, especially around the career preparation, about the vagueness of it in its current form. There are no standards for that class, and it's a little unclear exactly what it might entail. And so there's concern that the content and quality could vary dramatically. We've had a lot of questions about integrated math and how that would substitute for Algebra 2, and what it would mean to receiving institutions or programs that it was an integrated math course instead of Algebra 2. And we've had suggestions for more flexibility on the course requirements. Also mixed feedback on the endorsements. We have had some suggestions for more options. One of the pieces of feedback is to make clear that each school would choose which endorsements they might offer, and rather than saying that each school would be required to offer each of the 4 endorsement tracks. A lot of feedback on the practical studies diploma, concerns about what it is and isn't, that it is not equivalent to a standard diploma, concerns about tracking or students being pushed towards the practical studies diploma instead of standard diploma, and suggestions that IEP teams be able to do modifications and accommodations to allow students to receive the standard diploma rather than a practical studies diploma. So that's just the summary. You're welcome to look at the raw data. We're getting a lot of feedback, and we're still gathering at this point. Tonight we'll talk a little bit more about capstone endorsement options and the community service proposals, and we are going to soon begin to shift from our gathering and evaluating towards what recommendations that we as a task force want to make, and also to posit our own alternative proposals if we achieve consensus on any of those. So we're going to start tonight with the capstone requirement. It's currently not required in the graduation requirements. Some schools do offer it, but not all schools do, and it's not required of every student. The proposal is to add the capstone requirement for students to demonstrate proficiency connected to the graduate profile, and give students an opportunity to demonstrate academic knowledge and career readiness skills. So we surveyed the landscape. It's not required by any states, but some have them as an option. You can see New Mexico exploring it, and you can see there the states that have it as one of multiple options. As a reminder, this is the DC graduate profile that the capstone is attached to. This was OSSE completed this last year. And now we're going to invite our guests, Dr. Hausdorff and Kristen Jordison, to share a little bit about how they do a capstone project at BASIS, to give us some context for what is required to pull that off as a school, and what benefits it brings to their students. So I invite Dr. Hausdorff and Ms. Jordison to go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start as having been the one of the senior project coordinator at BASIS. It's our senior project, and it's not a traditional capstone in the traditional model, because it's optional. And students choose to do senior project. It is not a graduation requirement. And in fact, it allows them to graduate with high honors. So, which is the highest sort of diploma that they can graduate with. For us, it is foundationally, it's a research project, and students, it's focused on students working with a faculty advisor to develop a research question of some sort that they want to delve into. There are different ways then they can go about it, but they are exploring some topic of interest that they choose to pursue. And at the same time, it is paired with a placement or an internship of some kind that hopefully is closely aligned with the topic they're going to research. Students spend, for us, as I said, this is not a graduation requirement. It gives them 3 credits on their transcript, whereas a class is 1 credit for the year. This is 3 credits, and it leads to high honors for their graduation. They work with a faculty advisor to write a proposal for their project. And we're on a trimester system, so they spend their first 2 trimesters or 1.5 working on the proposal, and at the same time working on finding a placement or internship to go with it. And then during 3rd trimester, they are off campus and they are doing their internship for a minimum of 150 hours, and they are carrying out their research. And at the end of the school year, right before graduation, they return to school and they present their project to the community. We have a big evening, and the students come back and give a presentation and really try to show what they've both researched as in their project, but also the work they've done in their internship or placement. Kristen, you want to add anything before I?
Sure. I think one of the large things with the senior project is it is a full year program. So as Wendell talked about, it does start with this research proposal, and we have both a senior project coordinator, which is often our college counselors, as well as our own faculty that work individually to help hone what students typically start with is a very broad idea to like narrow the focus down to have a project that they can define and have more of a research statement. So definitely our faculty are working diligently with the students to develop those skills. And then once their proposal has been accepted, as Wendell also indicated, the senior project coordinator and the internal faculty work to help support them with some of those real world skills of how to craft a professional email, to reach out to outside agencies, for internships. So it can be in a variety, we see a wide variety of placements for the students. We have seen increased difficulty, I would say, over the past years, especially since COVID, with agencies or, universities we often work with, or labs having more reluctance to have high school students as an actual physical placement. So that has been a challenge that, we continue to work to develop partnerships, but it is a lot of work for the school and the college counselors to develop those partnerships and, create opportunities for the students to have these quality internship experiences. So we've modified things over time to allow students to have a little bit more flexibility in the placements that they do, but we do want them to have an external advisor. So they're having that opportunity to work out in the real world and learn some of those critical real world skills, not just, the book study. So that's really what we do see as a huge benefit to our senior project, is having students out in the workforce for the first time, perhaps, or in a lab for the first time, and have those opportunities to start making those relationships in a different way. So certainly, we also see a benefit for students for putting this in their college applications. So that can be a benefit for them as well. And students really explore a variety of interests. So sometimes it's very much what they're passionate about doing for their future college and career goals, or it may be a very personal goal that they want to have some sort of experience before they go on a different path at university. So it is definitely a lift for the school to help support these students and, help them develop those skills that they're learning in this year-long process.
Yeah, when I was thinking about what were some of the challenges and what made it work, the first thing that jumped out for me was having the faculty advisors work closely with the students and how they help them develop ideas. And as Kristen was saying about crafting emails and developing some of those skills. And I think having students have to, in this project, students really have to take the lead on this. And I think, I think that's one of the challenges. Every year we see students, they get towards the end of senior year and college dangling out there and they lose some of their interest and motivation. And they really have to be the driver behind this program to make it work and then work with the faculty and the coordinator. I think though, I have seen students who maybe didn't think they were going to do senior project or do a very successful one, really discover what they were capable of in terms of exactly that. They work hard at school, but maybe they struggle to get the best grades. But like all of a sudden, they're out in the real world and someone's treating them like an adult. And they really kind of rise to the occasion. And I think that from what I've seen working with students, that has been one of the real benefits of it. It is a heavy lift on the faculty and the infrastructure and the teaching of, like, if you want them to do research or if you want them to build portfolios or if you want them, they don't know what that means, right? Just because we tell them to do it. And so what we have found with Senior Project is having to, how do you research? How do you develop a question? How do you dig into some of these skills that are required to get to those endpoints and sort of backward planning for that? So I think there's a lot of people in the side who are making it work for the students to accomplish it. And like I said, it's optional for our students, so it's not. We're not trying to make it. I don't think we could make Senior Project as it currently stands a graduation requirement for the students.
Thank you both very much for sharing that. We are going to open up for some questions. And with apologies to the task force, we haven't always done the best job of having an orderly process for questions. So to ensure that we're being fair, we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat to start, and that will give us our cue. We may ask you to come off mute to ask the question, but that will give us a chance to make sure that we're being fair in the order of questions. This is more of a comment than a question, but Eleni says that parts of this sound very much like an AP research or AP capstone program, especially the outside advisor part and focus on professionalism. And Bridget adds that it's similar throughout charter schools. And then Dr. Ramamurthy adds, the important piece I heard was that the capstone was for credit. 3 credits. And I'll ask, are those elective credits? Are those, how are those assigned in terms of how they relate to the statewide graduation requirements?
Well, our graduation requirements have been completed by our students at the end of 11th grade. And so they are completing 12th grade for students at basis is, unless they haven't completed their requirements yet, the program includes capstone classes and then senior project. So it's a slightly different year. I don't personally actually know under what category. I suppose it would be elective credits, but it would be additional credits from what was required for graduation.
Thank you. We have another, this is a comment also. The WTU has raised a lot of concerns around who would have to administer this on top of the work we already do, as teachers already do. Our proposal is that the capstone should be tied to the special, sorry, chat is moving on me. Our proposal is the capstone should be tied to the special endorsements, but not be required for all students in order to graduate. And Bridget asks, what was the average number of students who complete the senior project each year? So
It usually ends up being about a third of the class. And this year we have a class of 70, and we have just finalized the numbers at 25.
okay.
So it's a little bit more than a third. More started out doing it, and then for various reasons have decided that they'd rather get a job or, didn't want to do, or their research kind of fell apart or that kind of thing.
And since they've already completed all their requirements, there's not a huge penalty if they
Correct.
go that route. Okay.
We also do offer the AP capstone diploma, and a senior project aligns with that too. So they just have to do the internship, which would be in addition to the requirements of AP capstone diploma. But we do have students that take both tracks.
Although we don't have that here in DC.
Oh, you don't have the AP?
No.
I'll add here that BASIS is a national network, and so that's why.
My apologies.
No problem. Christy adds, I'm hearing that DC public charter schools have some concerns regarding the mandatory capstone project. The concern is that the proposed recommendation to require all graduates to complete a capstone project establishes a new prescriptive programmatic element for most high schools that will require significant investment to implement well. And I can say we heard testimony from the Charter Alliance at our public meeting last night to that effect. Yvette Selby asks, what do the students who don't take part in the capstone project do if all their high school requirements have been met? So I guess what are the other things they might be pursuing?
Well, for the most part, if students, because we're on a trimester, when the second trimester ends, students who are doing senior project continue, but the other students essentially graduate. And so most of them will get jobs, or some of them will do volunteer or various, or travel, or it sort of varies. Most of them, I would say, get a job and make some money for college. And that is actually a big driver of why students sometimes choose not to do a senior project from the very beginning.
Eleni says that they do have the AP capstone program in DCPS schools. And Tanya asks, what is the cross section of students who typically decide to pursue a capstone in terms of their post-secondary plan or other demographics? And can you share a few examples of projects?
Sure. The students who typically, in terms of their post, well, again, for BASIS has a very singular focus on college participation and intention to continue to college. So I would say that the students, pretty much all of the students at BASIS, are intending to continue at a 4-year university program. And so But what for me is interesting about the capstone and who chooses to do it is that there is no sort of requirement of, there are some eligibility requirements, but there's no, for example, GPA cutoff that says, oh, you didn't have a 3.0 GPA coming through high school, so you can't do this. If a student is really passionate and goes through the process and is successful at writing a proposal and working with their faculty, they can do a senior project. And so every year we have students that for another situation of this type of program might be told, well, you haven't done well enough, so you can't continue. They do, and they have. I would say a lot of the types of things people do are the biggest ones are they're interested in something professionally and they want to explore it in more detail. We've had students, a number of students do things like one student did a couple of years ago a research on how small businesses had survived during COVID. And she did a case study by having an internship at a small business, a little personal care shop in Georgetown, and she literally went door to door to ask people if they would let her sort of volunteer for them for the spring. And she ended up working with this person. She did social media for her. She helped draw together some of her data around how she had survived and pivoted during the COVID epidemic. And then when she collected all this data and looked at the strategies that this person had done, and then she meanwhile looked at some of the data around small businesses that was publicly available so she could use her case study in comparison to that. I had a student a couple of years ago who was part of the Chinese community, and she really she got very involved in the cultural heritage arts within the Chinese culture, and she found an internship with a small, like 2-person office who were doing classes in cultural heritage and tours and things like that. And so she did sort of a historical dive into what had happened with some of these these arts had changed over time. And through her internship, she learned how to make some of them. And when she came back for her presentation and she talked about the historical shifts and things, she showed the products that she had made. We have students who often are in labs, students who want to be scientists who maybe got an internship during a summer for the summer, who then work to see if they can extend it during the school year. And those tend to be more truly science-based, where the research that they're doing sort of dovetails with what's going on in the lab. And often the students will be given something to do that is, running gels or some part of the lab work. So it can really cover a huge. I've had a student who was interested a couple of years ago in school funding, and actually his internship was at OSSI. And so we have really a wide range of whatever a student wants to explore, they can do it. They can do it.
We're going to add one more example by taking advantage of the presence of Representative Mazumdar, who is currently a senior at BASIS.
Yes, and
Satara,
doing senior project.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. So I am a senior at BASIS, currently pursuing senior project. And I think we've talked about like the administrative side of things and what that looks like just as like part of the curriculum in general. I will say I was definitely excited to pursue a senior project, just like knowing about it from like 5th grade onwards, because it's kind of a hallmark of the experience at BASIS, because you get to basically stop taking like classes and get to take that third trimester to research and pursue something that you're deeply interested in. I will agree, it's certainly not for everyone, since it is an optional like pathway, and a lot of people, like Dr. Hausdorff said, are like they choose to pursue other things, they choose to travel, they choose to work a job. But I will say that senior project has been very fulfilling for me. I've really gotten to enjoy the research side of things since I have had an interest just in doing research in general. I also think it's a very accessible platform to start doing research in the first place. Like Dr. H said, there are a lot of, I mean, for a lot of us, it's our first time doing research in this kind of way, coming up with a question and doing a literature review and all of that. But I would say they definitely prepare us really well to kind of take those first couple of steps, like diving into research. I will say that my project personally has to deal with disability justice within the law and policymaking, and I will be pursuing my internship at the DC Developmental Disabilities Council. And if anyone has questions about what it looks like from like a student perspective, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Satara. I'm going to go back to our queue of questions. Bridget Jackson asks, how do students currently meet the 24 credit graduation requirements in 3 years?
So our curriculum is advanced, so students begin earning high school credit in 7th grade. So typically students in 7th grade are taking Algebra 1. They also earn Algebra 2 credit and US History credit in 8th grade. And then through the 7 courses they take over 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, they meet those DC high school graduation requirements.
Thank you. And Christy Dennis asks, what has funding allocation and planning for the capstone project look like in practice? How has Basis DC planned for this historically?
Funding wise, essentially, we do ask that our faculty participate in being the mentors of the students throughout. So we are looking across our entire faculty for representation. So it's not just our high school teachers, but also our 5th through 8th grade teachers are matched with students that have potentially common interests and can help them develop and further outline their research proposals as they're going through the proposal stage. We also have about a 35-to-1 college counselor to senior ratio. So our college counselors, as Wendell can attest, are extremely hardworking, not only with that senior class, but they're working across the grade levels as well to support those students with, of course, their college applications and that senior year, but also with that senior project.
Thank you. This is related, partly comment. Dr. Ramamurthy says, this may become an equity issue. This will require significant investment if we require all the students to complete the capstone. Do counselors have the bandwidth to do this? And you just spoke to that. Students will not take it seriously if we don't award credits. That would affect quality for sure. Laura Fuchs says WTU counselors said they do not have the additional bandwidth. Sorry, do not have the bandwidth without additional staffing. Tanya says, very helpful. I appreciate you sharing these examples. These projects sound extraordinary. Dr. Ramamurthy suggests, can the proposed career prep half credit be changed to career and college prep and incorporated the capstone project as part of this credit? That's more a question for the task force than for our guests. Representative Thompson asks, could you talk more about the training and supports in place to make sure the project-based learning is done well? And also would love if you share the ratio of educators to students working on projects on average.
In terms of the training and supports, I think the faculty are working with students on sort of research. And that's part of the senior year teachers as well, as they do a lot of research in their courses. And so learning some of those skills. And then the college counselors, well, the senior project coordinator holds a class, not every week, but almost every week, where we talk about the different components and whether it's writing the different parts of the proposal or working on emails or diving into different sources or putting together bibliographies. And so and that training that we go through is also part of a network, the BASIS network, because this is happening on all the different campuses. So there's the training that we go through too about the parts of the senior project. So it's kind of multifaceted. And in terms of the numbers, I would say that there's a senior project coordinator, and there's two college counselors. So the second person is kind of a support there as well when there's spillover. And then we have 25 students who are currently doing it, and I think we probably have maybe 10 faculty members who are acting as the advisors. That might be, so we'd ask advisors not to have more than 3 senior project students. So there could be, some people will only have 1, and depending on their capacity to take a student and feel they can advise a student, they might only have 1 person. Some will have 2. Some who have done it many years, or maybe they have a sort of process that they follow and are comfortable with, might take 3. But it's, they're reading different parts of the proposal. They're giving feedback. They meet almost weekly with their students. And even after the students go out during 3rd trimester, the faculty advisor will still be meeting with them, either weekly or bi-weekly for the 10-week term. So, yeah, so I would say, it's pretty heavily supported. But because it's sort of built into our program, the faculty, it's sort of part of being a high school teacher or even middle school. And sometimes we even have administrators who will say they can take a student and work with them.
Thank you. These next 2 comments are important context for us as a task force. Bridget Jackson says, BASIS has a very different high school model for most DCPS and DCPCS schools. And even with their small size, they only have 30% of students participating. So that's context for us. Laura Fuchs says, it is hard to see how we can expect all schools to do a capstone for all students when BASIS, which is only 5.6% economically disadvantaged and is not Title I, only has 30% of their students complete it year over year. Schools already have an option through AP Capstone and other methods. What are we trying to achieve? I'll take that as a rhetorical question for the moment, although that is the question that we will continue pondering. Christy Dennis, echoing what Bridget shared, some public charter LEAs currently require students to complete a capstone project to graduate. The LEAs that specifically require capstone projects for graduation have done so since their founding and as part of their school model. Their budget, schedule, and programming are all designed to support this work. Dr. LaJoy Johnson-Law says, so proud, which I will surmise was of our student representative, Satara. Eleni Abibi says, I had a student who actually was not interested in college and wanted to go into HVAC, so he did his research on HVAC systems and then later focused on what role does the federal government play in addressing heating and cooling needs to improve living conditions. It was one of the best projects because he chose something he was 100% passionate about, and he said it definitely helped him feel more excited about school because it was the first time he got to choose what he wanted to research and study. Representative Thompson says to Representative Mazumdar, would you share a bit about what made you want to take on a project, and if you have additional insight in why some students may choose not to do projects?
Yeah, of course. So, kind of echoing sort of the HVAC project, I find that people who pursue senior projects, the topics they choose are ones that are very close to them. So for me in particular, I'm very passionate about disability studies. I discovered the field through my involvement within policy debate, but I only really dabbled within it in that way, and I wanted to go deeper. And senior project was like the perfect platform for me to like really get into the research in that way. I also just enjoy the research process. So being able to do that for something that would count towards school credits and like graduating with high honors seemed like the right move for me. And moreover, I really wanted like real world experience in a field that I was interested in, but I also definitely wanted support because I could have easily not decided to do senior project and just like tried to like cold email places to see if they would take me. But I think one of the hallmarks of our senior project is that you get that sort of like wraparound sort of support, not just in like the research process and how to create a bibliography, but also from your faculty mentor. I will say some of like the best parts of my week are like my weekly meetings with my mentor, because we don't just talk about like the research process and like figuring out my proposal, but because at this point in the year, your proposals should be finalized and they're getting reviewed. So now our weekly meetings kind of consist of them talking to me about college and post grad and like paths that I may want to take, because you kind of choose your faculty advisor based on their interests, like maybe what they studied in college or previous work experience they had. So with my faculty advisor, they're working to do like education policy, and they're very deep within the field of education, but I am also talking about policy. So we kind of have discussions about what things that I could like things I could be interested in college and post grad, and we foster like a really great relationship. And I think that's that sort of support is definitely what made me want to pursue senior project. And I think for reasons that people might not want to pursue senior project, like I said, people definitely want to go and work. I know for most people that I like most of my friends who aren't doing it definitely want to go and get a job, because one of the requirements is that obviously it's unpaid since it's for like a school credit, and it's still work. Like you're still beholden to school, and you still have to like complete like weekly assignments that like track your progress within your like off-campus internship. So you still have to do work for that third trimester, and a lot of people just want to functionally graduate and be done. So I think that's kind of the main reason that people might not want to pursue senior project.
Thank you, Satara. I'm going to note that we're going to try to wrap this portion of our meeting by 6. And so going to try to get through the remaining questions. Dr. Johnson Law asked a question of Christy, and I'll ask Christy if you could put in the chat. Do you know what schools currently require the capstone project? We can keep that to the charter sector. I believe that there are a couple of DCPS schools that do require a capstone, but I can check on that also. Glenn
Robert?
Starn says, thank you. Go
Excuse
ahead.
me.
Yes.
I know you asked for me to provide a response in the chat. I already did so.
Oh,
just
okay,
wanted to share
sorry.
that with you. Don't
Thanks.
worry.
I'm afraid to jump ahead. I see there are 23 more messages, so thank you for doing that. Next we have Bridget Jackson, Capital City. Oh no. Capital City has a different but similar model, and it is a graduation requirement. However, they have graduation classes of 60 to 75. The question is, how will larger schools fund, manage, and maintain the integrity of a program like this without specific OSCE guidance and funding? I think I want to give Dr. Jones a chance to share anything she wants to share towards the end. So I'll put a pin in that, and perhaps she can address that. Thank you, Christy, for answering Dr. Johnson Law. Yvette Selby asks, how do you prepare your students in grades 9 through 11 for the type of project? For example, my daughter attended Capital City and had to do an in-depth capstone project. Capital City started preparing them for it in ninth grade as part of their ELA, math, social studies, science courses, etc. Is it similar at Basis where there's a long on-ramp?
I would say it's less built into the courses and more sort of in conversations. The college counselors meet with students in all of those years and have conversations about what senior project is and how and what they might be interested in doing, and talk to them about their interests and try to help develop, the encouragement to, explore and sort of find what they might want to do a project in. I would say most of the time when I'm talking with 11th graders, since they're going to be the next round, by far the majority of the class is, yeah, I'm pretty interested in doing one. This is sort of what I'm thinking about. And we'll begin to talk, this might be in the spring of 11th grade, we'll begin to talk about, what might they look for in internship and how could they approach a topic from different angles, just to get them sort of to begin to think about it. But I would say it's not really built into the curriculum very much in that sense.
All right, thank you. Dr. Johnson Law asked if Bridget Jackson, if you could come off mute and briefly share a little bit about the comparison for Capital City.
Right. Thank you so much. At Capital City, the Senior Expedition is a culminating project. It is a course that students take in the second semester of senior year. It is 4 credit and a graduation requirement. Seniors also take a class called Senior Seminar, which is a college planning course in the first semester of their senior year. They work together. The teachers work with them together during that first semester of senior year. They work intimately with the college counseling office to make sure every senior gets their application submitted and get their documentation, make sure they're matching colleges and everything. But for the Senior Expedition project, one of my former parents mentioned that beginning in ninth grade, students are doing student-led conferences throughout the year where they're presenting their work. That is a part of the capstone project, reflection on the 4 years of high school, as well as talking about what their future would look like. They begin smaller research projects, understanding how to do research, how to document research, and those kinds of things in ninth grade. In 10th grade, they're doing scientific posters and learning different levels of academic reporting. In 10th grade, they do a mini report. In 8th grade, they actually do an 8th grade portfolio. And then by the time they get to 12th grade, they're very astute at presenting and are prepared to, they're thinking about it much like the representative said. I've been thinking about it since, she started at Basis. Many of our students have siblings and stuff, so they know about it and they start thinking about it even in ninth grade. And much like was said before, whenever any adult engaged a student, they kind of say, hey, like, what are you thinking about? And the components of it, it is a 10 to 12 page research paper, as well as they must have contact with an expert. They have to have field work where they go out and do something. They have a product, something related to the work that they do. They have a product night where they come out, almost like a science fair type situation where families come out and see what students have learned. And then they do a 50-minute presentation, defense of their research in front of a panel of community experts and faculty members. It's been a graduation requirement for over 20 years since the first year that the program started, and it has developed over time. It is embedded and every year it gets tweaked a little bit. It is a lot of work. It is a heavy lift. There is one full-time, one kind of half-time because they teach senior seminar first semester. They also work a little bit on it in English and history classes, but primarily it is done in that one class that is the second half of their senior or the late first half, starting like in November of their senior year. They really kind of lean into it. And every single one looks different. It depends on the person. It is modified for students who have IEPs. Typically, the modification is the length of the paper and the length of the presentation, but the quality of the work is expected to be the same. And in the years that I was at Capital City, I think my largest graduating class was 72. Um, and so that is a lot, but I know some of my colleagues across the city who are in larger high schools, this would be a really heavy lift. So just want to add caution if it's, I mean, I think it can be done across the city, but it would not be done at the level that it's being done at some charter schools. So the question about equity is important. It's important, like all things that DC consider, the guidance around it. So what is their expectation so that a school can call it a capstone? Is it a time limit? Is it an amount of research paper? Is it like, what is it? Because there are so many components. You heard from 2 schools today, and we had so many different components, and some are the same. So my concern with the capstone is like, what are the requirements? And they need to be specific and not just say a capstone, because the school could just say, oh, you write a research paper and you're done. It's different equity, and we don't want folks to, or we don't want students. It depends on where you go to school, how the quality of your education. That's already a problem. And so I do think it could be done. I just think also the people who do it, it is a full-time job. So it would be an additional teaching position. From what I meant, Basis was talking about 1 to 3. Like, could you imagine? 1 to 3 at any high school. That's an insane ratio. So you really need to think about, or not, you need to think about, OSSE should really think about what they're asking of the schools and the leaders, if they're asking this to be a full-time requirement, because financially it's a lift. And there will be a full range of, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? So the guidelines would have to be super specific, unless they go with the AP capstone model, which is quite rigorous. And I don't recommend that either. But I'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to develop the specific guidelines. I would definitely be willing to support that work.
Thank you. And so
Bridget,
that is the question
I'm
for
sorry.
us. Go ahead, Rep. Thompson.
Could you just
Oh, I
complete
just want to say thank you to Bridget.
Sorry.
Thank you, Bridget. I really appreciate you for answering that in detail.
Oh, yes, thank you, Bridget. I was going to say, could you just expound upon your thought of why you don't recommend the AP capstone as a requirement either?
So AP, like all APs, AP is quite rigorous. So across the city a few years ago, when someone, I don't know who, was like AP for all, and all the DC public schools started offering APs, and all these kids were taking AP classes and scoring 1 or 2, and DC was super embarrassed that their AP scores were low, then they stopped having AP. If you do an AP capstone project, you have to submit the work to the College Board, and they make the final judgment. I don't think I need to say more about that. And so what happens when you have a number of students who submit their work to the AP capstone and they don't pass? So then in the final semester of their senior year, they can't graduate because they can't meet this. You understand? And so that's why I don't recommend AP capstone for all. However, if DC implements a capstone project, I think AP capstone should count. So if you have a group of students, the same way students don't have to take AP World History, a group of students chooses that. So if a group of students chooses AP capstone over the regular DC capstone that's taught in my high school, that they should be seen equally. Like the requirement is the same. But I think for all, I don't believe AP all anything is a good fit, but I do believe everyone could do a capstone at some level.
Thank you. We have a related comment from Eleni Abibi, who says, I agree with Laura. As someone who has taught AP Capstone for a number of years, it is a lot on a teacher and there is very little support. The issue is so many people don't really understand what even goes into the capstone program. If this is something that OSSE wants to happen, why not just uplift and strengthen the already AP capstone program first to allow it to grow and strengthen? I agree it should not be required, but do think it should be supported, uplifted, and expanded. And I think that takes us to the end of our questions. I see that Mr. Starnes has a hand raised. We can have him come off mute, and then I want to give a couple minutes to Dr. Jones if she wants them, and then we'll wrap this portion. Mr. Starnes, go ahead.
Thank you, Representative Henderson. So the only thing I was going to add is exactly what Bridget has elevated, just for the listening audience. AP Capstone, just to put some additional context, when done most appropriately, AP Capstone is actually a program, and students should leave with a AP Capstone diploma, which means that they have taken and successfully passed both AP Seminar and AP Research, which are standalone AP courses. And so speaking from the DCPS's lens, in the event that the capstone becomes a requirement for high school graduation requirements, we would also hope and support that the AP capstone would count as the capstone for the children who have completed the capstone. But just wanted to be sure that all individuals listening understood that capstone is not a one and done. It is a continuum of courses that include AP Research, AP Seminar, for students to then leave with that AP Capstone diploma.
Thank you, Mr. Starnes. And now I want to ask Dr. Jones if she wants a few moments. She is welcome to add.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Representative Henderson, for the overview that you provided of OSSE's proposal related to the capstone project. Your synopsis is correct that our intent is to be able to have a project-based capstone requirement so that students can have a platform to demonstrate the academic knowledge and career readiness skills that they attained in a real actionable way. And yes, the idea is for it to be connected to the DC graduate profile, as you shared earlier. We have heard some of these comments that were shared tonight. We met with the Charter Alliance just this week, so some of what was shared by Ms. Dennis was also relayed to us just a few days ago. As far as the question related to, what could be the content that would be an outcome, we have envisioned that this could look like, written reports, could be a portfolio, could be for students that are artistically inclined, like a performance or a video production. It could even be service learning. We hear and are aware that there are LEAs and schools that already have capstones. So the thought was that this project would be encompassed within an already existing course. So if there's a capstone, then it wouldn't be to replace that. Regarding resources, we most recently have begun a partnership with the Mid-Atlantic Comprehensive Center. Some of you all may be familiar with their work. They provide technical assistance support to LEAs as well as to SEAs, and they are going to be working with us to develop guidance surrounding this. Also, think like a playbook, so that if an administrator, a teacher, counselor, parents, students were to use the playbook, they would be able to have tools, resources, job aids for the implementation of the capstone project. And we also are going to work with them on other components like exemplar lesson plans and rubrics for this. So I just wanted to respond related to the resources question, not the financial component, but like the additional supporting resources. So that's just a little bit more about where we are. But yes, we have had other conversations where we have heard some of this feedback just recently.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. I also want to thank Dr. H, as I heard her referred to by Representative Mazumdar and Ms. Georgeson. Thank you for joining us and for sharing about your program at Basis. Thank you also to Bridget Jackson for adding the additional context of how it worked at Cap City. Just our thanks to you for joining us tonight. And I see that there are a few other things in the chat that we have captured. I think to Yvette Selby, I think that Dr. Jones spoke to that a little bit. And so we're going to move now to our other two topics, starting with the proposed endorsement options. And Representative Thompson, feel free to jump in if you want, or I can keep going. I just feel like I've been talking way too much.
I mean, I'm happy to give you a break if
Thank you.
if you if you would like it. You were doing excellent.
I need a drink of water.
Yes, hydrate. Happy to jump in. So at this point, we wanted to make sure we took some time to just dive in a bit with the endorsement options on the proposal. I want to remind folks that this slide has the endorsement options. One could be CTE options. Two could be an advanced coursework option, which might be AP dual enrollment, or could be IB. There's also the individualized option, which I think about it kind of how in college folks were able to choose an independent path of study. And then finally, there is the seal of biliteracy option. I do want to remind folks that I believe, and Dr. Jones will correct me if I am wrong, that the CTE option in particular is also proposed for the practical studies diploma recommendation. And so I don't know if folks want a moment to look at this slide, but I'm happy to go to the next slide. Or Haley's happy to go to the next slide. Okay, what we were able to find about the endorsement options. So currently, 49 states offer diploma endorsements, and we actually do currently offer the seal of biliteracy through DCPS. It is actually the most common and most commonly used endorsement option across the country, and 25 states offer other endorsements. 3 states do offer CTE endorsements, and 1 state offers an APIB endorsement. Many others offer academic honors. Next slide, please. And so endorsements is a lot quicker. Would love if folks start to put questions in the chat. I see that Sally immediately, and I knew she was going to want to talk about the seal of biliteracy a bit. I'm reading, she definitely supports it, but she has a question about whether a charter has the option to not offer it. And so I guess I'll go to Dr. Jones for that question. I would assume the answer is no, because this would be graduation requirements for all.
So the
But I wanna make sure
endorsement,
that's correct.
the endorsement options, as they are now proposed, are all optional.
Oh, they're all optional. So the answer
Yes,
is yes, they could
they're
not.
optional. And I also want to thank Sally for her partnership throughout this entire work in helping us gain additional fluency surrounding the seal of biliteracy, and also the DCPS team for their conversations along the way. So just want to give that acknowledgement.
Okay, so I just want to state this again. So the endorsement options are optional for all LEAs to offer. So in theory, like no LEAs could offer these.
Yes, they're optional.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sally, did you have another question before did you? I'm gonna go back to the chat then.
Can I speak or should I wait?
I'm gonna do my best to read the questions out the chat,
Right.
modeled
just-
really well by Representative Henderson. But if you have, because
No, there
that
was
was
a
working pretty
second-
good.
There was a second part in the chat, which is sort of an equity issue that is associated with the seal that I think this is a good time to raise. So that was the second part.
Okay, is this the one I would like to definitely support it? And then I saw at the same time there are some equity and access issues I would like to raise in regards to the seal and an opportunity is, but you didn't say what they were. Come on, Sally, say what they are. Come
Okay.
on, quickly.
So seal of biliteracy is, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's so, as you said, widely accepted, transferable. Employers, universities recognize it, so it's really great. I don't really believe that it's so simple to earn if you have the knowledge, if you know the language. To get the seal, you have to be at essentially a 4-year high school proficiency level in 2 languages, English and 1 other language, which is measured by a test or an AP exam. So you either can pass it or you can't pass it. So it's so easy to earn if you have the proficiency level. So I would hate to see students who are eligible not be able to have access to an exam that would earn them a seal. So that's sort of my initial reaction on that. The larger issue, which I've discussed with Ebony Rose and Robert and others ad nauseum, I think, is that this is really, another example of the privilege having more privilege. So you need to be at level 4. And there are many schools that don't offer languages up to level 4, that only offer level 1 and 2. Those students have 0 chance to get a seal of biliteracy because they don't have access to the language learning unless they come in as English language learners. So it's only something offered to a certain percentage of overall DC students. There is an acceptance in the proposal that assessments are valid measurements of language proficiency, which is, again, widely accepted in the field. So I think an associated policy that I would like to see approved as part of this process is that students can get credit by exam for languages that they are learning outside their schools, whether it's advanced language classes that are not offered at their school or other languages or studying abroad or just many different ways. It would add a lot more flexibility and fairness to the process. But right now, having SEAL is something that only serves a subset of students in DC. And that doesn't sit, I think there's opportunity to do more. Those are my.
Thank you, Sally. I am going to go to Christy's comment in the chat that she is hearing that DC public charter schools are in support of diploma endorsements, but has one recommendation. The ask is that this recommendation should make clear that all LEAs are not required to offer all endorsements, but that LEAs have flexibility to offer the new endorsements. Bridget asks, who will take on the financial costs of the seals? Will OSSI provide them to LEAs? That is a question for Dr. Jones, not for Ebony Rose.
I was trying to come off mute. So can you walk me through the current transcript process?
It sounds like who will take on the final cost, any financial costs that the seals might require, and will OSSI,
No,
I guess,
thank
provide
you.
this? Yeah, will
Yeah,
OSSI.
the question was regarding the current transcripting process, because wouldn't we want to follow the current transcripting process?
I think it's two different questions. So, one is about the current transcripting process, and which I'm assuming is will OSSI provide them to LEAs? Will OSSI provide the seals? Which is so I think that is connected to transcripting process. I think the other one is about financial costs that schools might incur if they say, okay, I want to offer this new endorsement option, but maybe I'll use Sally's example. We only can offer Spanish 1 and 2, and we're not able to offer more advanced languages. Or maybe I want to build out something that will allow me to offer a CTE endorsement. Like, are there financial costs that we should be considering, and who would uh, support them? Is it only on the LEA, or are there other things that OSSI envisions?
Right. That's why I posed the question about the current transcripting process at the LEA level, and if it would make sense to adhere to the current timeline and process. Um, I think one of the components also here is just timing related to completion of the respective courses or demonstration of the activities, like in the instance of the Seal of Biliteracy, and being able to provide the administrative like acknowledgement of those back to the schools. So that's why I'm asking about the current transcripting process, so that I can take those considerations back to the office in order to get a crystal clear response to this.
Bridget, I'm going to come to you to make sure your
Yeah, that
thoughts.
wasn't exactly my question. I worked in Fairfax County Schools before I came to DC. I pulled one of my son's diplomas because I'm super proud of him. And he has lots of endorsements, right? As you can see, they're gold seals. The seal of biliteracy came from an outside organization. It costs money. All the other seals were pre-made. These were some of them provided by the state government, by the governor's office. Some of them were created by Fairfax County themselves. They were all paid for and meticulously counted because they were expensive. And so I'm saying this is like a baseline. Is this something OSSI is going to send me 12 seals of biliteracy, or does my LEA have to incur those costs? Who's going to make those arrangements and organization? When you start, the endorsements are seals and they have to be earned, tracked, adhered. I'm not saying they're a bad thing. I'm just saying, has the process been thought out for how it's going to happen? In my opinion, it makes sense that OSSI purchases them and sends them to LEAs who earn them, or maybe sends them to PCSB to distribute to charter schools. But it's more than just a sticker for the gram. Like, it carries weight. And so it's important that the full process, other than just we want them, has to be thought out in terms of distribution. And I know there's time, but I just want to add that to the space, that distribution of the endorsements and execution, adding them to diplomas and all of that. Christy, I think about the work you do at PCSB, having to go through each individual transcript and say, this person earned this one. Oh, wait, you have a sticker on this one. This person's not supposed to have it. You got to take it off. Just the manpower associated with that. And again, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it won't be free.
All right, noted. Yeah, I thought you were talking about more like operational components behind it, but this is just actually about the purchasing of it. I'll take that back.
Thank you. I was trying to model, so I put my own question in chat. Are we considering incentives to encourage LEAs to offer the options, or even other avenues for access if a LEA doesn't offer an endorsement option, maybe through the ATC? Dr. Jones, I'm so sorry. You have to keep coming off and on of mute.
It's okay. And every time I try to come off of mute, it takes me a while. We have not had those conversations surrounding additional incentives for the endorsement options. However, in picking the endorsement options, we really were thoughtful around current academic offerings that students may be engaged in, like focusing on the CTE path and acknowledging those students that are participating in those line of courses, and the same thing with the advanced studies. So wanting to be able to highlight the students that are participating in AP and IB courses. So we had not thought of additional incentives. The focus that we had thus far was really to give the recognition to those students. But I am hearing that query, and I can take it back also.
Thank you. And Bridget notes the recommendation does not say LEAs have flexibility. Go ahead. I saw you come off mute, so I stopped talking.
Well, we've shared throughout this process that the endorsement options are optional. What other flexibility? Please come off mute.
Well, I'm gonna assume it's a matter of making sure the language, the written language in the recommendation or the final recommendation matches or what is it? Because I was like, wait a minute, are they optional? So just wherever we do land, I think that's what I hear Bridget saying. Bridget, is that
Yeah, it
correct?
just doesn't specify, is it optional for LEAs or is it optional for students? When I read it and I reread it again, it's optional, meaning it's not a graduation requirement, but is it optional for LEAs to provide? And if that's the case, it just needs to be more clarified in the language.
Yes, I will say I read it that way too. That's why I was like, it's not optional for them to offer. So thank you. Maybe Representative Henderson notes maybe a question for Dr. Jones. To what extent can LEAs currently use competency tests for language credit? I know Sally talked about this a bit, but if there's anything you'd like to add, Dr. Jones.
I was just going back to review the language within the proposal, and when I heard the question that was asked, I thought I heard you all ask if student participation is optional. It is optional for students. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And can you repeat the question related to credits?
Yes. So wait, can we stay here? So it is optional for students. It is not optional for LEAs to offer all endorsement options. Is that correct? Like,
It is optional.
can you be an LEA and not offer endorsement options?
So the way that we currently have this written in the proposal is a selection of and participation in an endorsement is optional.
For LEAs and for students?
For students.
For
That's the way that
students.
it's currently written, yes. And I thought that is what was asked, the question that was asked.
Yeah, I think it's two different questions. I think at the top of the conversation, there was clarification about if LEAs could not offer it. I could not, because I will I'll speak for myself here, which is why I sounded a bit confused at the top. I read and understood it as these are new endorsement options, and all LEAs will offer these. However, it's not required that as a student you have to choose to take an endorsement pathway to graduate. And I think so it's two questions. One, I think we're clear that it's optional for students. So that question's been answered. And two, I think we are looking for clarity on if LEAs will be required to offer endorsement pathways.
Okay. Yes, but I am glad we had this conversation, because the ask that I thought was of student participation being optional. And we have consistently said that throughout. But I hear the query now about the LEA participation.
Okay. So so for LEAs, it is or it is not optional?
Right now, the way that we have this written is that it is optional for students.
Not for LEAs.
It's for students.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's how we have these meetings. Really appreciate it. Back to Representative Henderson's question. Maybe he says maybe a question for Dr. Jones. To what extent can LEAs currently use competency tests for language credit?
So one of the aims with this current proposal was to be able to have focus on the competency component for languages through the seal of biliteracy. But other than that, we have the competency-based education waiver that LEAs can apply for currently.
And Sally notes in the chat that she thinks OSSE should cover the cost of language assessments. Haley, thank you as always for adding more information to the chat. She notes that OSSE's proposal also includes a seal of biliteracy with distinction and includes a link to that language in the recommendation. Eleni says it would be nice for language to be built out. A lot of schools only have levels 1 and 2 for language. In my experience, the students earning the seal usually are speaking the language at home. I have yet to have a student who did not speak the language at home actually earn the seal of biliteracy. Thank you for lifting that up. This, like the AP Capstone program, feels like we are jumping from 0 to 100. This is still a comment from Eleni. Without support or building out programs. I love the idea of expanding our language programs, but then we need to hire more language teachers and make sure schedules actually have level 3 and 4 of these languages. Dean Murdy, I support these proposed endorsements. I see a benefit to college admissions. Our college admissions advising colleagues will be able to use this extra information to understand the incoming students' area of interest and encourage them to pursue challenging courses in these areas. I do understand the lift, though. Bridget then notes the adoption states that the endorsements are optional, not optional for LEAs. Okay. Thank you. We got clarity on that, which was very helpful. Sally, it looks like the proposal says it's optional, okay, for LEAs to offer 2 credits for world language for those earning the seal of biliteracy. And then Bridget notes OSSE may also make arrangements with local colleges and universities for advanced language support. This is the last call for any questions or comments on the endorsement options. I will ask my own question. Dr. Jones, can you talk a little bit about, I believe the CTE endorsement options are offered to students who are on the proposed practical studies diploma track. Could you just talk a little bit about the supports and how you see that opportunity being realized for students who are on that proposed pathway?
So I pulled up the practical studies diploma, and the focus for career preparation is both within the proposed career preparation course and then also in the elective option. So there's a minimum of 1 credit of experiential learning. So that's internship, job shadowing, career exploration, and job training. So that may have been what you were thinking of related to the CTE component. So that is what is included within the proposal for the practical studies diploma related to the career technical education piece there.
I believe, and I could be mistaken because I've been mistaken before,
Mhm.
both in both in these conversations and in just life, because I'm human. But in one of our conversations, and I think it was the one focused on practical studies, there was some mention that the CTE endorsements could potentially be offered. Is that not a possibility? Um, is that different from what it sounds different from what you're describing, but
Yeah, I'll take that back to the Office of Special Education because the focus that immediately comes to mind related to the career technical education piece is called out in the electives area. So I will take that back to them. So I don't want to misspeak on that.
okay. That would be appreciated. I'm just thinking, I think I'll tell you what was happening in my head when I thought I heard that the first time,
Mhm.
was given the number of requirements for the practical studies diploma, and given um, just like what we're expecting students to do, there may be overlap and opportunities, and I think we want to give students as many opportunities that people read as legitimate and having a certain amount of gravitas as they leave our school system. And
Oh,
it's sorry.
you're speaking about the micro credentials component, the micro credentialing component.
I was not. I was talking about if the CTE endorsement options could apply to the practical studies diploma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the within the proposal, there is language surrounding the CTE endorsement option, but it's for a micro credential or similar. Yeah, so there's those two pieces for that. Yeah, as you started talking through it, that ping that component. So there's that, and then also the occupational call out within the electives, that occupational component connectivity. So there are those two areas.
Okay. I want to see if I missed anything in the chat. Optional. Uh, Bridget, local colleges, Representative Johnson Law, will the endorsement be recognized even though the practical studies diploma is not a diploma but an alternate diploma? There's concern the practical studies diploma, wait a minute, the chat's moving, is not recognized and therefore would the endorsements be recognized? And then Haley, I'm gonna read what Haley put in the chat because it goes with the comment from OSSI's proposal. Endorsement students working toward a practical studies diploma would have the same access to endorsement options as students pursuing a standard diploma, career and technical education endorsement, advanced coursework endorsement, AP dual language, individual. Eligible students could also receive the Seal of Biliteracy if they met requirements. OSSI proposes that within the CTE endorsement option, students pursuing a practical studies diploma could earn a micro-credential or similar by completing a cohesive component of an OSSI-approved CTE program of study.
That's
And
credential.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bridget notes, is the CTE endorsement only for the practical studies diploma? Questions. And it doesn't sound like it is.
No, it's not.
Okay. I think that is all of our questions and comments about the endorsements. Not that we might not have more later, but I do know we have a third chunk, which is community service, which is also pretty short, but want to make sure that given we are moving towards starting to talk about how we'll make decisions next month, we want to make sure we call attention to all the changes this month. So I'm happy to go to the next slide. If Representative Henderson wants to jump back in, I'm okay with that too. It's totally up to him.
I can take the baton back and appreciate you taking it from me.
I did my best.
Did great. So turning to our last topic, the proposed changes to community service. OSSI is proposing both to reduce the number from 100 hours to 60 hours and also redefine the scope. So including redefining it as community engagement to include place-based learning, which can include paid and unpaid opportunities. Community engagement can be paid or unpaid activities outside of school consisting of civic duty, addressing the needs or challenges faced by others, using knowledge gained in the classroom to solve real-world problems, or shaping the environment or community in a positive or productive way. The activities should promote the development of life skills and or characteristics outlined in the graduate profile. OSSI will work with counselors and other school leaders to create guidelines for identifying acceptable community engagement activities. And I'll just say again, from the beginning, we were summarizing our feedback. We have gotten sort of divergent feedback on this one. We have heard people very happy to hear both the reduction of hours and the expansion in scope. And other people have been adamantly opposed to a reduction in hours and have had questions about the scope. But what questions do you have? Elenia Bibi says, if it is including paid and unpaid opportunities, could it also include opportunities inside of school? Students who use their lunch to peer tutor or peer mentor should get community service hours. For students who work after school, this is an equity issue. Sorry, the chat is jumping. So Dr. Jones, I don't know if that is something you can answer now or if that's for later discussion of what the guidelines are.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation surrounding the guidelines, and I will absolutely take that back to the office as well, because I hear that there could be activities within the school that could also count. So,
Right, thank you. Christy Dennis notes that DC public charter schools are in support of the proposed changes to the community service hours requirement. Dean Rima Murti, I have no strong feelings on this. I like the broader set of choices for students. They'll appreciate it. Sally Schwartz says, would students in SYEP, which is generally about 125 hours per summer, be able to earn community engagement hours?
that's another question that can be brought back related to establishment for the guidance document.
All right, and Representative Thompson says, my sister, recent DCI grad, noted she had 200 plus hours and would love if we considered a seal for those who go above and beyond. And Bridget Jackson says, I love the community service endorsement for volunteer unpaid 100 hours. So another thing to consider. She says, I assume this is from Capital City. I gave honor cords for students who did 200 hours. I know my son would appreciate that because he's on his way to his 272 hours at Banneker. Yvette Selby, I support the proposed changes and have heard from other parents that they support it as well. I do think some students will go above and beyond and like Representative Thompson's suggestion. Representative Thompson asked, do we have criteria for what would constitute service if it is a paid opportunity versus just a job?
The current language just reads that it's coming. Sorry.
So guidance coming. We can add this to the list for Dr. Jones of kind of questions for the guidance.
I mean, maybe I should rephrase. I guess, do
Oh,
we
sorry.
have, sorry, I broke our rules. Do we have maybe initial thoughts on what would constitute and how we would differentiate service, paid community service versus uh, I have a job at, I don't know, Foot Locker? I don't know if Bridget is responding to my question as Dr. Jones is probably working to get off of mute.
There are a number of organizations in DC that offer paid internships for students. And because those internships were paid, they weren't allowed to get community service credit. And I'm guessing this is a response. So Howard University has a student medical internship program where students get paid for that work. Genesis Works is another program that pulls students for students to do the DC Urban Alliance. There are quite a few programs throughout the city that provide students with a stipend. And because they were getting a stipend for those internships and service learning opportunities, they could use them for community service programs. Someone mentioned SYEP in the chat. The mayor's office has a mayor's leadership program, things like that. But because those students received the stipend, the line used to be paid, not community service, unpaid community service. So it was like really clear. But there are a number of programs throughout the city that are service type of organizations, internship, career development organizations, but they do provide students with the stipend, and currently those hours are not acceptable.
Oh, I see that Haley has put the slide back up, which we already read. That notes in the proposal, it says community engagement can be paid or unpaid activities outside of school. Because it sounds like civic duty, addressing the needs or challenges faced by others, using knowledge gained in the classroom to solve real world problems, shaping the environment in positive ways. Activities should promote the development of life skills and characteristics outlined in the graduate profile. OSSE will work with school counselors and other school leaders to create guidelines. So to your point, Bridget, the guidance is coming, but it does give some initial thought around how they're thinking and what would constitute.
And the only language that's not on the slide, or at least I don't see it right now, is further down in the proposal related to it providing a societal benefit. So that's also.
I just hope the language is clear. If you've ever argued with a student who didn't have their hours, they would try to get hours for, all kinds of stuff. I shovel my neighbor's driveway. Like you have to have clear, because it's a graduation requirement, right? Christy Dennis is going to look at it and say, sorry, this doesn't count. You can't graduate. So it's really important that the language is clear. And that would be my only push because the students are quite good at debate.
Yes, thank you. And I'll just note again that we've said all along that in addition to responding to the proposals, the recommendations themselves, that we would capture and communicate the feedback that we've received about the guidelines that need to accompany them. So thank you for that. Sally Schwartz says, I also like the special endorsement option discussed above. I don't have a problem reducing hours, but if the definition of community engagement is so broad, it feels not very meaningful or necessary. So I want to see real guidelines. Elenia Beebe says, this is great if it says, quote unquote, community engagement, would something like participating in the MICFA challenge count? And then Haley has added the additional language from the longer proposal. Dr. Jones, could you say if something like Mikveh Challenge is along the lines you're thinking.
Or so I have had past conversations with the staff at Mikvah Challenge and am familiar with their program offerings. And I think that because the work does serve a societal benefit, that there seems to be a alignment there. Again, just want to reiterate that it's at the school level to determine if
Mhm.
there would be
Counts.
alignment with the definition.
Right. Thank you. And Bridget is saying that she gave credit for Mikveh Challenge, which speaks to that dynamic that the schools are determining. And I'll make a last call for questions or comments on community service. Dolly Schwartz says, Bridget, this is something else I'd like to say, a policy that would allow for academic credit for some out of school programs. And Dr. Jones, no need to apologize. We appreciate and we recognize that we are putting a lot of burden on you to answer all these questions, and have nothing but appreciation for your participation. And if there are no other questions, I think we can turn towards wrapping up. To close us out, our next meeting will be February 19th, and we are planning to have our March 19th meeting with an in-person option, which is something that folks had asked for kind of early on, which I think will be, dare I say, fun to do. And we really appreciate all the feedback and your patience as we've been in this phase of getting our questions out, gathering as much information as we could to inform our decisions about what recommendations we want to make as a task force, and to make sure that we have done our due diligence before we do that. And we are going to be turning, first we'll talk as a task force group to establish how we want to make decisions together, and how we want to present our decisions to the state board and to the public, and then begin working on what the content will be of our recommendations. So we thank you all for your participation tonight, and we continue to be available to you in between meetings if other thoughts come to you, if you are getting additional feedback from your networks. I will say one more time that we are keeping the survey open through the end of January. So continue to share that if you would. And I will end with just thank you and invite Representative Thompson if she wants to say anything as well.
No, I mean, I hope that we do get to see each other outside of the little boxes. That will be lovely. Then nobody has to like navigate mute or screens or any of the things. If you do have additional comments outside of this meeting, or you're like, how do I make sure I like officially get you, something? You can. Our emails are there, and that counts. We will make that a part of the record and fold it in to any of the comment and feedback we hear. So if there's something that you're like, you know what, I really want to make sure I talk about this thing around the changes to course requirements or endorsements or any of the things, we definitely welcome if you want to submit like longer written commentary that feel is absolutely should be captured. So thank you for your time and engagement today. thank you for doing your best to work with us between the chat and the comments. I see Dean Ramamurti has her hand up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're done with the meeting, I wanted to quickly jump and ask Dr. Jones if she's a Trinity graduate.
Hey, sorry, I was coming off of mute. Yes.
You
I got my
are?
master. I got my master's there.
Oh my goodness, I thought I recognized the name, but
Mhm.
wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
worries. That's a wonderful place to end. So I love a full circle moment. I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Hope you have time to get groceries and warm stuff before the snow. And see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.